Hello my lovelies, welcome to the channel. How have you all been? I hope you've had a fabulous week. Today I am going to be making up some Chinese 5 spice. Spice? Spice. Sorry, I'll stick my teeth back in. So to start off, I'm going to blitz up a couple of cinnamon sticks. Now of course you can absolutely use ready ground cinnamon, but I just find there's something really nice about grinding it up yourself. So I'm using a electric coffee grinder. It just makes it a lot easier. If you don't have one, you absolutely use a mortar and pestle. But the smell when you take that lid off is just something else. There's something quite beautiful about it. I love it. Once the cinnamon's ground up, I am adding in about 3 tablespoons of fennel seeds. Now I do this in stages to make sure that everything kind of gets ground up properly, so you're not left with great big chunks of things. So you'll see that I'm doing this in steps. And the next thing I am adding in is star anise. So there's about 7 or 8 star anise in here. They have a habit of breaking up, so I'm just eyeballing the right amount there. And then I'm going to grind these up. Like I said, you want these to all be really well blended together. You don't want great big lumps. By the same token, you don't want like an absolute fine powder, because why would you? It's nice to get that hit of flavour. Now that they're ground up, I'm adding in some pink peppercorns. You know I have a thing about pink peppercorns. They're just, yeah, I'm not even going to go there, because once I get started, I won't stop. Next, we are adding in some cloves. So there's about 4 or 5 cloves going in there. And I think, yes, we have about a tablespoon of sea salt. And last but by no means least, a teaspoon of chili flakes. Now I'm using chipotle chili flakes, but you use whichever ones you like. That's the beauty of making up your own spice blend. You can tailor it to exactly how you want. So I'm just going to give this all a big blitz up. This is probably the spice blend that I would make up the most at home. I love it. And as soon as I open the jar, the smell of it is just something else. There's something about it, that blend of spices, that just hits the spot for me. So there we are. It's all ground up and smelling lovely. I wish you could smell through the camera. So this is the recipe that I use Chinese 5 spice for the most. So I like to use it as a rub on pork belly. Now pork belly is quite fatty meat, and it takes those big bold flavours really, really well. And you know me, I am all about the big bold flavours. We don't go in for much subtlety around here in the kitchen. Life's too short for boring food. Enjoy it. Eat the tasty food. Now that I've got the pork belly laid out on a tray, I am going to go ahead and sprinkle some over the top of each bit of pork belly. And this just makes sure that it's going to get coated well, and so the flavour is going to be well distributed. And once this is put on, I am going to rub it in, turn it over and repeat the process. that is all the pork belly covered. I'm just turning it over to make sure that as much of the Chinese 5 spices stuck as possible. I've preheated my oven to 160 degrees centigrade. That is for a fan oven. If you have a conventional oven, then it would be 170, 180 depending on how hot it runs. And it cook it as much as you like, just as long as it is cooked through. I like to really render a lot of the fat out of it. I'm just putting the remaining spice blend into a glass jar. I always like to make enough to do at least 2 batches. It just makes sense to do it that way in my mind anyway. So to go along with my pork belly, I am going to make jeweled rice. I don't know, it just goes together so well, and it's really easy to make. It doesn't take that much effort to do. So I'm heating up some olive oil in the pan here, and I'm going to go ahead and pop some onions in there to soften. So these are not too finely chopped, but they're small enough that you're not going to get too much in one mouthful, certainly. And one of the things that I've learned recently from making curries is to have the heat down quite low, and you put the garlic in at the same time and put the lid on, and it seems to really soften the onions and keep that sweetness. Stop it burning. You do need a little bit more fat in the pan, but I've found for dishes like this it just seems to work really well. So if that's something that you want to try, I would highly recommend it. It really just helps to make dishes. So I'm just giving these a wee stir before I put the garlic in and pop the lid on. So I've just brought the pork belly out to have a wee look at it and give it a turn, because you want to make sure it gets cooked evenly on both sides. It can dry out a little bit if it's left on just one side to cook. So I'm just turning this over and it will go back into the oven to finish cooking. So now that the pork belly's back in the oven, cooking away nicely, I'm going to take the lid off the pan, and you can see that those onions have cooked down along with the garlic, and they're beautiful and soft, and they've not burnt at all because we've not got them at too high a temperature. So I'm just giving them a wee stir before I start adding other things into the dish. So now that the onions are done, I'm going in with some ground cumin to begin with, and then I will go in with some turmeric. Now I usually would use freshly grated turmeric, but I just didn't have the energy this evening, so I'm using powdered. Also use a little bit of powdered ginger, but don't tell my eldest because she's convinced that she doesn't like ginger. She really enjoyed this though, so if you don't tell her, I won't. I'm also putting some cardamom pods in here. They just give a really beautiful flavour, and they have that sort of citrusy, zingy note that they add to it. So it just, yeah, again, big flavours. I like big flavours and I cannot lie. Sorry, that was really corny, I know. So I'm just cooking these spices out so that they just release all those flavours. And it's really important to do this on not too high heat. You want to cook them, you don't want to burn them, because otherwise they go acrid, and that's just not a nice flavour. Next up, we're going in with a star anise, just to tie flavours together. And then we'll go in with a cinnamon stick as well. following along that theme. Now these will come out of the dish at the end. You know, you're not going to eat them unless you really, really want to, but now they'll come out at the end. So I'm just pouring in a generous amount of rice, and I'm going to give that a stir to make sure that the grains of rice are all coated in the spicy, oniony goodness. So now that the grains of rice are all beautifully coated, you can see they've got their suntan on. They're tan in a bottle. Did you know that turmeric is the basis for a lot of fake tans? So that's why it stains your hands shockingly whenever you grate it, or it stains the wooden spoons. So next up I'm going with a bag of, what is it? It is dried cranberries and sultanas. There's lots of different colours of sultanas in there, and the cranberries. This is what makes it jewelled. And then again, this lends a really lovely sweetness to the dish without being sickly sweet. I'm going to go ahead and add in a litre of chicken stock. And just give that a wee stir so that everything is combined. And then I will pop the lid on and leave this to cook away and do its thing. Now that the rice is cooking away, I want to get on with making the glaze for the pork belly. So I make this glaze with pomegranate molasses and soy sauce. I've had this bottle of pomegranate molasses for a while, and it is being really stubborn. It's kind of solidified a little bit because of the sugars, because it's quite cool, and it's been there a wee while. You don't need too much of it, so it's taking a wee bit of work to get this out of the bottle, but I will not be defeated. I will get as much as I need out of this bottle. So you can see I had a wee bit of a fight on my hands to get it out, but I think I've got just about all we need out of here. There's a lump stuck in there that's stopping so much of it coming out. I would have been better off sitting the bottle in a bowl of hot water, probably, and it would have come out a lot easier, but I was just a bit too impatient. I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to add in the soy sauce. So I don't really have any measurements for this. I kind of eyeball it, and then just give it a good mix. Get some of that pomegranate molasses off that straw there, because I don't want to waste any. Okay, so the rice is bubbling away doing its thing. It's time to take the pork belly out and glaze it. Get a wee bit of a facial there from the steam from the oven. Always put my face far too close when I open the door. You think I would have learnt by now. Anyway, I'm going to grab this glaze and brush it onto the pork belly. Now this gives it, it's not a sweet flavour. The pomegranate is slightly sour, and then you have the saltiness from the soy sauce, and then there's this sweetness that comes through from the pork, and it all just blends together really, really well. It's one of those flavours that until you've had it, it's really, really difficult to explain, but we love it. You know, it's something that's really popular in our house, certainly among David and myself and the older two. We all really enjoy it. It's a bit much for the younger ones, but that's okay. Their palates are still developing, and hopefully they'll come out of the fussy stage and start enjoying things like this. But for now, there's usually plenty of leftovers, which means ramen noodles, and I'm not going to complain about that. So just having a look at the rice, and that looks like it might be nearly done. You can see there's a little bit of liquid in there, but this is just about perfect. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give it a bit of a stir. You can see it's starting to catch on the bottom, and we don't want it to catch too much. A little bit is fine, but when it starts burning, it gets that acrid taste, and we don't want that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the heat off and put the lid back on and just let this steam, and it will just make the rice really nice and fluffy. So the pork belly is out of the oven and the rice has finished steaming, so you can see that that's fluffed up a lot now. And it was basmati rice that I used. I should have mentioned that earlier on. But this is just like, I seriously wish you could smell how amazing this smells, because it just, yeah. I'm not going to say any more. So I'm serving up dinner now for us. And so a good scoop of the rice and then 3 pieces of the pork belly is plenty for a meal. I know it doesn't look very much on the plate, but it is super duper filling. But yeah, I know the pork belly looks burnt. I promise you it is not burnt. The kids always wind me up for saying that things are caramelized, but it's just the fat has caramelized and the soy sauce has given it that colouring as well. But yeah, I love this dinner. I really do. So this weekend I did something exciting. I went and did a firewalk. Not once, but twice. And it was the most amazing experience ever. I would recommend anyone to go and do it. It's truly amazing. So with winter steadily approaching, I don't know about you guys, but my hands split and bleed and generally feel quite horrible in the winter time. So the way that I combat that is by making salve. And I love doing this because I'm able to use the beeswax that we've recovered from our hives and also use oils that I've infused with things that I've either foraged or grown in the garden. So today I'm making a salve with some shea butter and beeswax, obviously, and some fractionated coconut oil that I've infused with calendula flowers. Now, calendula is just amazing for healing the skin. It really, really is. Now, I'm not too precious when I make my salves about sieving out any little bits of petal. If that's the way that you want to go, by all means, go ahead and do that. But I think it's quite nice to see some of the petals in amongst the salve. It gives it a nice little hint of colour as well. So that's a beeswax. Because I have it in big lumps, I tend to just grate it. It makes it a lot easier to measure. And trying to cut wax off those big lumps is just a nightmare unless you have a heated knife, and life's too short. Let's be honest. I love a kitchen gadget, but life is too short. So yeah, I have got this over a pan of simmering water. You can use a glass bowl or a metal bowl or another pot on top. I have this special little pot especially for doing jobs like this. I think the proper name is a double boiler. Anyway, this wee pan is specifically for me making salves and things like that. And it doesn't take long for the solid oils or butters to melt down, as you can see. So there's a few wee bits there, but that's grand. And I've let this cool for a few minutes. The really important thing is you don't want to put essential oils into really, really hot oils. Does anybody else have that stubborn bottle of essential oil that you can never get the lid off? For me, it's myrrh. And myrrh is an absolute bugger to get the lid off. But anyway, this is the first essential oil that I'm putting in. It's really good for like antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's just really good for your skin. So I'm going in with 20 drops of that when I can eventually get them out. And then I'm going in with 20 drops of cedarwood. It's another really good one for your skin. And it gives it a really nice kind of earthy tone, not tone, but fragrance to it. It's not overly masculine, but it's one that would be used in a lot of men's sort of skincare or fragrance products. But it's quite subtle, I find, in this. So there's 20 drops of the cedarwood. And then I will go ahead and put in 10 drops of frankincense. I'm nearly at the end of one bottle, so we'll see how we go if we can get enough out of this bottle. I think we might be at the end of it. So again, frankincense, that is really good for taking the healing power of any other oils deeper down through the layers of your skin. And it's just one of those ones that everybody should have. So I think that bottle is well and truly finished now. Now the final oil that I am putting in is Palmarosa. Now this is used in skincare quite a lot. So all these oils I've chosen for their skincare properties and for their healing properties. I'm just going to give them a stir through to make sure that everything is really well combined. And it's starting to solidify a little bit, so I have to work fairly quickly. You can see how beautifully that's pouring, but like I mentioned, it is starting to solidify, so I'm going to scrape as much as I can out of this pan and put this in. As most of it's still liquid, it will combine really well. And it will all set as one, I don't want to say lump because it's not a lump, but it will all go in together really well. So I've left these to set for about an hour now, and you can see that it's all solidified. And there are those couple of bits of calendula leaf, but we're not worried about them. They'll be absolutely fine. And as I said, it's all come together beautifully. So now I can put the lids on. Don't do that when it's hot, because otherwise it will cause condensation, which will cause issues. So we're all good to put the lids on now. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, coming along with me while I cook a big salve. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new video comes out. Until next time, my lovelies, take care.